Hello, and welcome to this portal mapping and modding tutorial. I'm Orsell, and today I'll be teaching you how to get started with Hammer World Editor, Valve's Hammer editor. Today we're going to be using Hammer 4. Hammer 4 is a version that will be used for Portal 2, and used with a lot of other modern source engine titles. Hammer 3 and older were used for older gold source titles, which will not be applicable in this tutorial. While this tutorial will be going over Portal 2, a lot of the information in this tutorial will still be applicable to other source engine titles. Though, we are going to only be focusing on Portal 2. If you wish to work on other source engine titles, this tutorial may not be for you. This tutorial will be using Windows 11 to install Hammer. While other OSs can support Hammer, they will not be featured in this tutorial as they require extensive setup to get working correctly. First, let's get started with getting Hammer. As long as you own Portal 2, if you go to your Steam and look up Portal 2, you should be seeing under your Tools tab, Portal 2 Authoring Tools. It is not there. Make sure you are searching for all tools, and have tools enabled to be listed in your Steam library. Once this is installed, simply clicking Launch will start up the engine tools. Here you'll be presented with the Portal 2 Authoring Tools window, which involves Hammer, the model viewer, Phase Poser, as well as links to the Valve developer community, which we just saw before, which includes lots more information you can use with getting started with Hammer, as well as other documentation on the source engine. Please note, most of this information here is also very applicable there, so if you need help or have any questions, it's good to check there first. Once again, too, we have the Portal Mapping Modding Community Discord, so if you do have any other questions too, please feel free to drop by. But please make sure you look at the VDC first. Once you have Hammer, just simply double-click Hammer World Editor, and Hammer will pop right up. Once Hammer is open, you might see a dialog that mentions Game Configuration. I don't have that here, as this is not the first time I've opened Hammer. If you don't get it, but you want to see what I mean, is if you go to Tools, Options. If you are setting up Hammer for the first time and you get this dialog with nothing in there, make sure your configuration is named Portal 2. This isn't required, but just so you know which configuration you're using. In the game data files, we also have the Portal 2 FGD. FGD is short for Forge Game Data. This was a data format Valve used to tell Hammer which entities exist in the source engine, since Hammer and Portal 2 are two separate applications and are not interlinked, and cannot communicate with one another. If you do not have the Portal 2 FGD here, as long as you click Add, you can go to your bin folder in your Portal 2 installation, and you can find the Portal 2 FGD. The other FGDs here are not relevant. You can add them if you like, but they will not be used for the most part. To add one, you can just double click, and it gets added to the list. You can do this for all the others. For demonstration purposes, I'll just keep removing them and stick to the normal default Portal 2 FGD. Material format should be just Materials Half-Life 2. We don't want the old WAD 3 system, as we are no longer using it. As well as the map type being Half-Life 2. Now, the default point entity class. This will be featured with entities in a future tutorial, but for now, just say info player start. The same case goes for default solid entity classes. Just do func detail. As long as you copy all these other settings here, the texture scale, the light map, making sure record and texture is the tool skybox. If it's not that, you can look it up in the texture browser, tools/tool, and it should be usually this last one here, tools/tool skybox. Double clicking it will select it and it will populate correctly. The next important step is making sure your game directories are correct. The next three directory inputs are very important: game executable, game directory, and Hammer VMS directory. Prefab directory is not required. If you have prefabs, there will be a future tutorial for them later down the line, but for now, just focus on these first three. The game executable directory is pretty self-explanatory. It is where the portal2.exe will live. In our case, it is simply under our program files, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, and Portal 2. As long as you select this and click OK, the option will be populated, and sometimes it will add the Steam user dir for you. The same goes for the game directory. The game directory is inside Portal 2, the smaller lowercase version. This is where the game info.exe lives. This is required in order to load any content for Portal 2. If you don't have this, Hammer is nothing to load, and it will have no clue where your textures are. The last place is the Hammer VMF directory. This place will contain where your instances and other map content will go. This does not have to be this folder, but it is recommended since Valve has made it so that when you install the Portal 2 authoring tools, SDK content gets created and maps. Normally in Portal 2's SDK content folder is your maps and your puzzles folder. The puzzles folder relates to the PETI editor. It is not relevant for this tutorial. But for maps folder, it will contain VMFs as well as example map files and pre-made instances by Valve. Here in my case, you will not have the exact same instances as I will, because a lot of these are my own custom ones. It is recommended to keep your stuff in the SDK content directory. With that complete, as long as all your config is set up here, you should get the apply button, and when you hit OK, you should be good to go. There might be another prompt asking you to restart. If that's the case, then please restart following the previous instructions. Great, now you have Hammer set up, so now what? Simply making a map is as easy as going File, and New, and bada bing bada boom. You should get your read-only view of Hammer. Usually by default it starts on the smaller 4. As long as you hit the maximize button, you can get the 4 windows like this. If you need to adjust it, just slide the edges of the windows. You can also do the very center to do all 4 at once. Now, you may be wondering, there's nothing here. That's normal. There's currently just nothing here in your map. As long as you have a valid texture setup, and you say, let's take the skybox texture before. You add it in, and hit enter. Here we go. It is currently in our map. Now do know, when it says read only, it does mean read only. Currently right now, this is a temporary file, and is only being held in Hammer's memory. If you want to save as a disk, just hit File, Save As, and then you can save your file as a VMF anywhere. We're just going to name this test. While Hammer is a very suitable tool so far, Hammer does have its limits, it has its flaws, and in even older builds of Portal 2, before it has been recompiled, was very buggy and was prone to crashes. But we're going to focus on Hammer++, because Hammer++ is a more modernized version with new features and tools, and as a direct compatible port for Portal 2. If you want to get Hammer++, you can go to their link in the description in order to install Hammer++. There, you just need to go to Download, and then find Portal 2 in this list. As mentioned before, Hammer is very applicable to other source engine tools. Hammer++ is not so much. Hammer++ has a specific build for specific games, Garry's Mod, Team Fortress 2, and so on. Each have been created specifically for their version. Currently, we're just going to use Portal 2, so just simply click the Portal 2 one. Once you've downloaded the Hammer++ zip, open it from wherever you downloaded it, and then go inside one more folder. This will be the contents you'll need, excluding the README. The README will contain the instructions I'm about to give you just in more details, but I will give you the quick rundown. All you need is the bin folder. Once you have your bin folder, open up your Portal 2's base directory, and simply copy it in. You'll be asked to replace some files. You may not. In my case, it's asking to replace some files because some of my files already exist. If you do get replace file prompt, just say replace files in direct destination. Great. Hammer++ will be installed in bin, Hammer++, and here is all the main Hammer++ files. Along with that, you'll also get hammer++.exe, as well as the hammer++.exe model viewer. For now, let's just focus on hammer++.exe. When you double click this, it will open hammer++ as before. You will get a Windows protection warning. This is just simply because this is an exe installed on a third-party site. This is normal. Click more info and click run anyway. Hammer++ will get started. This interface looks really familiar. It is just like Hammer. Hammer++ is built off of Hammer. So everything is pretty similar, just more tools, more quality of life, and a lot more options to work with. Because we've set up normal Hammer before, you do not need to set up Hammer++ again, as that all your settings from there have been transferred over. FGDs and everything. Great. Just like before, you can just do File and New, and you can start up a new Hammer map. You can even open up the previous one. If I go to Open, I can find my test one here and open it. Ta-da! So this was installing Hammer++. Hammer++ is a good quality of life tool, and I recommend you use it compared to normal Hammer. But of course, Hammer++ isn't for everybody, and Hammer is now working functionally just fine as well. So you feel free to use whichever you feel like. Next, we're going to focus on HammerAddons. While the self-explanatory name kind of gives an idea of what it's for, it is a separate piece of Hammer and is not directly part of Hammer. And instead, it's an external additional compiler that is used when compiling your map. TeamSpen's HammerAddons comes with a bunch of other entities, quote unquote, as these entities are just part of the FGD to tell the Hammer that they exist, but are not actually part of the game. These entities are read by the Postcompiler and added in at build time. That way, when you run your map, the compiler has already set up your map in a way which will make it work in Portal 2. HammerAddons, just like Hammer++, is compatible with a variety of other source engine tiles, but once again, we're just going to be focusing on Portal 2. Portal 2 does come with some additional other features with this, since this was originally made with Portal 2 in mind. In order to install HammerAddons, go to the link in the description. From there, you should go to this page. There, all you need to do is click the latest version right here, currently as of recording 2.6. When in doubt, if it's not 2.6, always get the latest release, as bug fixes are very nice and important to have. Plus, HammerAddons will include more features. Once you go scroll down, you'll see the assets. Just click the zip, and you'll download the HammerAddons zip. Once you got HammerAddons, it will be slightly different. While you have your zip, you should hold on to this zip. I'll explain why in a bit. As mentioned before, HammerAddons was made with a lot of source engine tiles in mind, hence why all these FGDs exist for it. For you just want the Portal 2 and Portal FGDs. You could also get the Half-Life 2 FGD you want to replace the original one that is already coming with the game. Once you selected the FGDs you want, you can simply go to your bin folder, and once again, copy them in. These files normally live in your bin folder. Great. Once you've copied your FGDs over, let's focus on the next four folders. Examples, Hammer, Instances, and Win64. Win64 contains the Hammer++ compiler, as well as the Curator compiler. But that will be focused on another day, but right now, just copy over the full folder into your bin directory. Because I technically already have this installed, just replace. If you're updating, always replace. Instances contains a bunch of Portal 2 instances, as in cube droppers. These are optional, but are recommended as these droppers have been improved compared to the standard Valve ones that are provided. These ones can be copied over to your SDK content folder. The SDK content folder, when you first install the authoring tools, will include a instances folder already. Once you're in here, just simply, once again, copy over the contents into this folder. It can be in any way you want. For me, I just include the Portal 2 folder, and this includes the cube droppers. The next folder focus is the Hammer folder. The Hammer folder contains all the content required to have the HammerAddons Postcompiler to work. In order to copy over this, just copy it to your main root Portal 2 directory. Once again, if you already have that content there, just replace. There'll be one more step related to this. This will be focused on in a second. The last folder is not required. It's simply like with the instances folder, just a bunch of VMS, but instead these are actual maps and instances provide examples on how to use HammerAddons features. Feel free to copy this over to your SDK content maps folder, as well as reading the README for more information, but we will be skipping that right now. Now that you have your Hammer folder in here, we need to tell Portal 2 that it exists. If you remember that game info.txt file mentioned earlier, that file dictates what folders will be used and what content will be loaded. Internally, Portal 2 will automatically load any Portal 2 _ DLC folder. It is hard-coded this way. By default, it will always load the highest one and overwrite any content underneath. However, the main game info relies is in the base Portal 2 game folder. In here, you will find your game info. This is the bread and bone of loading custom content. By default, it will look like this. All you need to do to make HammerAddons work is just say game and Hammer. The game will automatically find this folder for you in your base Portal 2 folder. You can also add other folders too with other materials and assets too, in this similar structure, and Hammer will load that up for you to use. Custom content will be focused on another tutorial, so for now, just make sure whatever text editor you have open, you have saved your game Hammer folder. In some cases, it might be wise also to directly specify all folders, even if Portal 2 is programmed to load these folders by default. Example of this is the DLC folders. This is more preference on my part, but it ensures that all content that I want for Portal 2 and my mapping get loaded. One more important folder to add, sometimes this is required, sometimes this is not, is the platform folder. This folder contains content mainly for Hammer to work with. Again, it might not be an issue and you might not need it, but just in case, it's good to add. Once again, make sure your text editor choice has the file saved, and then you're good to go. When you do make an edit, if your game info content or anything else that is not currently being used by Hammer++, you will need to restart. Feel free also to shortcut Hammer++exe, so you don't have to always go into your bin folder to run it. You can also add it as a non-Steam game to Steam and load it from there. As long as all the paths are correct, your content will load correctly. Now if we load up our test file again, nothing else has seemed to change when we added HammerAddons. But when we open this and look up comp, we can see all the HammerAddons entities here. For example, the comp vac tube junction with its custom model. If you're seeing an error in place of here, you currently do not have the Hammer folder correctly in your game info. Make sure all the paths are correct and you have your Hammer folder in the right location. Now, the final step for making HammerAddons work. Because these are not actually entities that the game will recognize, you will need to have the Postcompiler turn these entities into other entities that the game will understand. In your run config, you'll normally get your basic start-of-the-mill basic run map dialog. This will be more in depth later, but for now, you just want expert. Here, we have all the expert configuration, where we can specify direct commands and parameters, as well as the order that the compilers will be run in. By default, BSP, VPSP will run, VViz will run, VRAD will run, and it will copy the file over to the directory needed for the game to run your compiled BSP folder. The step we need to add is right below here. Just click Add. Make sure you move it up after BSP. After that, you will need to go to Commands and go to Executable. This should open up a dialog for you to your maps folder. We want to go to where the postcompiler.exe is. Simply go back to Portal 2 base folder, bin, Win64, postcompiler, and then here is our postcompiler.exe. When we open that, the full path will be pasted in. Great. There's one more step that you need to do. Make sure you add -- prop - combine. Sorry, without the dash. Then afterward, path $5. What this will do is essentially tell any prop statics you have in your map to combine into one static prop. It's more of a map optimization thing. There is also one more thing you might need if you get an error with running postcompiler. It will say cannot find a game directory or something as similar. All you have to do is just add -game, and then either you can have a full path to your Portal 2, the lowercase Portal 2 folder inside the base Portal 2 folder, or you should be able to get away with just saying $game. When that is done, make sure you tick it on to be enabled. Then, when we run this map, do note it will not compile properly. You should see Postcompiler run. Scrolling up and ignoring the error, you'll see that it'll run the postcompiler.exe with prop combine, as well as -game being your lowercase pro2 folder, and using your map as the map for postcompiler. When it runs through this process, you'll see all its output .lxb out. But of course, yeah, we're going to get an error because this is an invalid map. But as long as that is running and it works, then you have a working HammerAddons postcompiler tool installed into your Hammer installation. Once again, while this was done in Hammer++, these steps are also applicable to Hammer. If you want more details, make sure you go check out the installation page for HammerAddons under Wiki and Installation. They'll give you more information there. Again, HammerAddons will be linked below. Just go to their wiki page. They'll also include other tutorials on other entities, like CompFlicker, their Choreo generator, their new piston platform, as well as many other useful tools like the vac tubes and other vscript specific things, as well as more information about the FGDs that they provide. Congrats for getting this far. This should be it for this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you post them below. Other than that, thank you for watching.